afternoon, everybody, or good day, whatever time of day or night it is when you're watching this video. And welcome to another Thriveabetes interview. Today, I am with Noel Murphy, who is from Dublin. He works in sales and customer service. And Noel is going to tell us all about his life with diabetes. And Noel, first of all, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So first of all, let's start where all the diabetes story starts and diagnosis. But if you want to go back a little bit earlier than that, do.
Okay. Well, I was late to the party. I was a 25-year-old when I was diagnosed. Growing up around diabetes, my dad was a diabetic from when I was a small kid, so I'd kind of gotten used to seeing all the paraphernalia around the house, kind of blood glucose monitors, injections, needles, all that sort of stuff. Weirdly enough, I suppose I didn't see the telltale signs with me as I should have. When I was diagnosed, I'd been sick for, I'd say, the best part of a year and a half before I eventually was diagnosed. I was tired, I was thirsty, I was, lethargic all the time, and I just put it to being in my mid-20s and living a good life from when I left school. Did a little bit of post-leaving, started a little bit of college, started working, started partying, and I just thought it was all catching up on me. Took lots of multivitamins, took lots of tonics, stuff like that. And then eventually, I think I told a few people this. I woke up during the night one night with a massive abscess on the back of my leg, went to the GP, and for some strange reason, the minute he saw it, he knew pretty much immediately what it was. I did a urine sample for him. Very quickly afterwards, a few days later, I had blood tests done, and pretty much within 2 days, I got a call to say that I was a little bit diabetic.
Love that
which
phrase.
were my GP's words. But we loved the guy. He's been our family doctor through my mom's life and my dad's life, so I trusted him with my life when he told me. I think my fasting blood glucose was either 35 or 38. So it was pretty high. But I still, even though my dad was a diabetic, knew very, very little, except, you pricked your finger and you tested your blood, you injected insulin, and that was pretty much it. I knew nothing about it. So I was...
What age were you?
I was 25.
25.
So I'd say from before I turned 24, I'd started to feel not well. I think I was very lucky because, I've heard of a lot of people the same age who have been wheeled into hospitals, with DKA and stuff like that. And when I spoke to one of the consultants' team the day I went into Bowmill, said my fasting blood glucose was pretty high. So it was a matter of time. So I think it was caught just at the right time. So I wasn't afraid of needles. I'd seen injections, I'd seen pens for quite a while with my dad being a diabetic. So when they handed it to me that day in the hospital and said, can you use this? I literally opened the lids, dialed up 2 units and did it straight away. So it became second nature. And I guess from there, because they seemed to think that I knew what I was doing, I was kind of let loose. I was on a mix dose. I think it was like 70-30 Nova mix. So it was twice a day. It was, I think I probably started off at like 6 to 8 units in the morning, 6 to 8 units in the evening. And then as I saw the consultants every few months after that, for the first couple of years, it was increased, maybe decreased and increased again. And I was with Professor Chris Thompson at the time, and he did a fantastic calculation with a calculator and a pen and paper one day when I went to see him about what weight I was and how much insulin I should have been taking. So I started taking that much insulin, and he basically told me I could adjust it as I saw fit, but didn't explain why. So,
okay. And how often were you checking your blood glucose levels as well?
At that stage, probably before breakfast, before dinner, sometimes before lunch, and then before I went to bed. And that kind of went into a sliding scale too, where the more I kind of thought I had a control over everything, the less I checked my blood sugar. And I only ever had to check it if I felt like I needed to check it, if my body was telling me something was going on. Which, to be fair, and for the longest time, I thought I was very lucky. There was never any alarm bells. Nothing was ever going on. And I just whatever I was eating on any particular day, I just adjusted the insulin as I thought I was doing the right thing. But that kind of spiraled out of control. And, you know, as the years went on, I just thought I had a handle on it. I would behave myself religiously before consultants' checkups and get blood tests done, and had been well behaved for the period of time I thought I needed to be to get the boxes checked and to be sent on my way for another 6 months. So I lived that life for, I'd say, 15 to 17 years. But gradually gained weight over those 15 to 17 years to a point where I was overweight and I wasn't happy, but I still thought my, diabetes was under control. I think my A1C back at the time in old money would have been in the nines. But I ignored it. I just thought that was just the road every diabetic took, because I was never I never stayed long enough to have anything explained to me. I was always in the door and out the door really quickly. Never wanted to know, never got involved in conversations with other people with diabetes. And I didn't keep it to myself. My friends and family knew I was diabetic. But outside of that small circle, no one else did. And I didn't talk about it. Not that I wasn't proud of it, so just didn't want people to know, didn't want people to fuss. And I just thought, yeah, I've got this under control, it's fine.
And I can definitely relate to that, because in my early years of diagnosis, my mission was to get in and get out of clinic as fast as humanly possible. So was the HbA1c of 9 ever flagged to you at any point? Because I wasn't aware that mine was ever flagged to me until like the early 2000s, when I think they knew to explain what it was.
Yeah, I think the perception you give them in a clinic, they take on board. And I think, because I don't know what it's like anywhere else, but with the likes of Beaumont, the staff have been there, like the nursing staff have been there for quite a while. And I would have grown with some of the nursing staff at the very beginning. They were now like nurse management and stuff like that. So they get used to people's personalities. And I maybe portrayed this, I just want to get in and get out type of attitude. And so you got, at the little bit of time you got with your consultant or with one of the consultants' team, and it was like they went through the thing. They, maybe gave you a prescription for blood pressure medication or for cholesterol medication. They checked your feet. If your feet were fine, your eyes were fine, you were basically sent on your way for 6 months. And that was the kind of the attitude of the clinic I took, because I kind of wanted to just be told, see it in 6 months. I'd have loved to have been told, see it in a year. Because I didn't want to be there. Like, do you know what I mean? I kind of thought, look, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, so I don't need anyone in there to tell me. And then it might have been, your A1C is a little bit high. And at the time, and I don't know if you remember, I think it was Keith Duffy there was an ad campaign, and it used to be the 7 ad campaign for your A1C. There was like radio ads and newspaper ads and TV ads. And it was like 7 or below. This is quite a while ago. So I knew being above 7 wasn't good, but I didn't know how much above 7 you needed to be not good. So I didn't think 9 was a problem. I didn't think the 8s were problems. And it was only when I started to do a bit of research into it, I realized it wasn't good.
Okay. Yeah, I don't actually remember any television ads, but maybe I wasn't living in Ireland during that brief time.
It's possible.
So now, because that is a long way from where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we talked before, I asked you, what changed? What happened to actually put you on the road that you're traveling today? So can you pinpoint that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I'd say 11 years ago, I lost my dad. My dad was a diabetic. He was an old age type 2 diabetic, but he was insulin dependent. And for the longest time, I thought he was type 1 because all I saw was the insulin. And my knowledge of diabetes was, if you didn't take insulin, you were type 2. If you took insulin, you were type 1. But he had other complications over the years. He had a heart condition and he ended up having a bypass operation. And then as he got older, he got different things happen to him with his kind of kidney and his liver and stuff like that. And then eventually, he just got a really bad infection in his late 70s. And, he ended up going into hospital. Over the space of 3 weeks, his organs just started to fail and shut down. And I maybe started thinking about it then, but didn't do anything about it because I kind of thought, okay, family history is one. My dad had a heart condition, he had diabetes, I have diabetes. My mom died quite young with cancer. So there's, you kind of have to think about these things as you get a bit older. And I was getting into when I got into my 40s, I started to think about it more, but then I just kept pushing it down the road, as I did for quite a long time. And it was literally
Yeah.
just a chance meeting one person that kind of made me think about it a little bit different and made me realize it mightn't be as difficult as I was making it out to be, to change things and go a different direction. So we had a wellness, and our work were great. They brought in this wellness program a good few years ago. And once a year there'd be a wellness day, and everyone would get a pack, and there would be kind of different information about different things, and they'd bring in specialists here and there. And one year it was like everyone got like a head, neck, and shoulder massage, and someone would come in and do a talk on nutrition. And me being me, I kind of, you'd sit tongue in cheek listening to the nutrition thing, and I'd be sitting there thinking, you don't have to tell me anything because I'm diabetic. I know what I need to do. Do you know what I mean? So, but there was one year then, we're only going back 3 years, so it was 2018. My boss decided to bring in a life coach or a life specialist, just to give everybody 20 minutes to a half an hour. At that stage, I was probably the heaviest I had been or had ever been from like my early 20s. Had a lot of stuff going on, obviously with the diabetes, but I had like high blood pressure. I was on cholesterol medication, and I'd been put on aspirin for years. And because of a combination of different pills, I was on medication for my stomach because I developed esophagitis as well. So I was on a stomach tablet every day to counteract the effect of the other tablets that I was on. And I just kind of thought, again, everything is normal. That's just what happens to people when they get to my age and stuff like that. So I got weighed, and I was, not surprised at the weight on the ticket when it was printed out. And then they give you your metabolic rate, and they give you your BMI and all this sort of stuff. So when we sat down at the table to have the conversation, she had like a small little form that, she filled out for everybody. And when she asked me about my medical history, I rolled up my sleeves and started to go into it in the detail that I practiced and, for so many years, telling everybody. It was like, oh, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 1 diabetes, this, that, the other, stomach problems. And I was just, anytime I ever spoke to anyone in the medical profession, you always felt like you were being judged. This woman's attitude and her approach was just totally different. I mean, she was really, really nice. It was just a very casual chat. And she said to me, like, you're 42. You're not getting any younger, but none of us are. And tried to have a laugh and a joke about it. And then kind of said, like, Sheila, you happy with your weight? And I was like, well, no. But I tried to explain that probably the reason I was the weight I was because of the amount of insulin I was taking. I had to eat to cover it.
Yeah.
And that was an attitude and an opinion I had for quite a long time. And she kind of said, look, I'm not going to go into it too much, so I don't know a huge amount about diabetes. I would know an awful lot about type 2 diabetes, but I wouldn't know that much about type 1. But she said there are surely ways that you could make a few little tweaks here and there and be a little bit more active. You don't have to run a marathon tomorrow or jump on a bike and cycle 50 kilometers, So we had a great chat. She just kind of went through every meal I had during the day, what I ate, what she thought I should change. Not like, don't eat that, change that to this. It was like, well, maybe tweak it here, take this away, add a bit of this. And just asked me to try it for 4 weeks, and I did. And the difference in 4 weeks was phenomenal. And not just in myself and in my, energy levels and my attitude and my, just outlook on everything during the day. Like, sleep was better, my mood was better, I was sweating. I didn't feel like I was the weight I was. But hand in hand, I was probably at that point, before I started, on about 80 to 84 units of insulin a day. And that had gone down by about 20 units within 4 weeks. So I knew that, straight away within 4 weeks, because within about a week and a half to 2 weeks, I started getting hypos because of the amount of insulin I was on. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, how did you manage that change?
Yeah.
Like, how did
I
you
noticed
gradually reduce
more
that?
and more I was getting lower and lower. And because I got myself up to that level by myself, it was logical to me that if I was making changes and eating better, I could get back down again, because this was what I was told for the longest time. You need to adjust your insulin based on, how you feel and what you're eating and stuff like that. So because I wasn't eating as much and better food, it was obviously having a different effect on my body. And I wasn't needing to pump myself with insulin so much to cover what I was eating, because I was eating different.
And you were on the MDI, the 4 injections a day at this point,
At
though?
that point, no. I was
Oh
still on the
no.
mix.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still on the mix. And again, it was only, I think, the next appointment I had with my consultant after I'd started to do this, that, there was a wow moment where I'd say by the time I got to see the consultant, I'd gone from those 80 units down to 60 units, down to about 40 units. And they could see that because I kept a diary. I started to keep a diary when I started to get kind of a lot of low blood sugars, because I just wanted to make sure I had it written down. Probably the first time I gave a crap in the longest time, but I wanted to go in and go, look, this is what I'm trying to do, and I'd say it was the first time I ever asked for help in the clinic, and the first time they were ever really receptive with that. And that was the first time I let somebody explain to me splitting my injections and splitting my insulin between, fast and slow insulin. Because every time it was ever suggested to me over the years, my first answer was, why the hell would I want to take more than 2 injections a day? I'm doing fine. I'll keep going this way. So,
okay. So Noel, I'm going to pause you there, because we're going to take a
sure.
short break to divide
Okay.
this interview into 2 sections.
Sure.
So bear with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
No problem.